can you talk a little bit about the process of visible aging? And you've gone through that a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
at what point do we really need to start working on it? Or we should have been doing that early on when we were 10 and getting that protective layer and use, and I think we're better at it now. I think when you and I grew up, I mean, it might have been seeing ski once in a while, once we were on the beach, but we didn't really protect ourselves about sun damage. So when do we
Well,
need to start?
I know about sea and ski. You know, I thought I was protecting my skin with cocoa butter,
Oh yeah,
baby oil. I was
with a little bit of iodine in place just to give us a little bit of a tint, right?
right. Well, you know, and I didn't even realize that. I thought that was somehow the iodine was doing something good. Iodine can actually cause acne, so can cocoa butter. But I was raised in San Diego, and I was on the beach whenever I could be on the beach. And I also started every year with a tan. And so what what we're saying is this damage gets programmed into your DNA. And you know, to take it a step further without getting too complex, your DNA is, or your genes are made up of DNA. And some of your genes are expressive genes. And expressive genes are genes that send out instructions. These are the only instructions your body's going to listen to. So if you break a bone, if you have an illness, something needs to be repaired, it doesn't listen to anything else. Now, think about this. Think about when you're born. And let's say your epigenome and your DNA is like a perfectly pristine CD. There's no scratches. Everything has great clarity. And you, not only that, you're growing, you're building, you're making new skin and new muscles, and you're gaining in girth and height. And then you reach your 20s, and what happens is that you go into, instead of an anabolic process, you're going into a catabolic process. Okay, so things are starting to slow down. Now what happens is you've got all, as you're aging, you're getting, it's like getting scratches on the CD. And the information doesn't get interpreted the same way. You don't hear the same clarity. So you don't repair the same way. This is what we see as the aging process. And finally, when your CD is just all scratched up and it can't be interpreted, well, that's when you don't repair anymore and it's lights out. So what we want to do is, and we actually have the ability to do this today. Number one, we can prevent a lot of this damage, sunscreens, sun protection, but we can actually reverse instructions coming from your, and that's kind of what, when we, you know, when we get into sort of the solution, I can talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, you should, because, you know, we know that it's happening and it's inevitable. And especially after this year, because stress stops all body functions, and we've all been under a lot of stress. And, you know, sometimes I think, you know, working at home, we probably haven't been as diligent. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm not going to wear any foundation or any makeup. And then we forget and we have to run the garbage outside. We haven't done our normal protection. So sometimes I'm beginning to think that it's possible that our skincare routines have maybe regressed a little bit because we were maybe a little bit more on top of it when we had to go into the office or do that. So I think it's just like, you know, reset 2021, like what did we put into place and what do we need to do to prevent more aging, and how can we stop that process?
Well, first of all, I've been talking about this for years, but there are a lot of studies out there, and there's a recent study from UCLA School of Medicine, Ronald Moy, who's a very well-known dermatologist. You must wear your sunscreen indoors.
Exactly.
You've got your windows open. You're getting UV light in. And when you're at home a lot and this UV light is coming in, it's like spending the weekend on the beach. And if I told people out there, gee, why don't you just go spend the weekend on the beach and just sit there and stare out at the sun? They'd probably think I was crazy. Well, that's what you're doing at home. So you really have to wear your sunscreen all the time. And, you know, in terms of what this is a complex issue, but again, to simplify it, what we can do to really reverse a lot of this is, number one, and I always say there's no exceptions, you know, no substitutions. I mean, you know, people can do anything they want, but if you really want to be able to address these issues, number one, it starts off with the skincare management system.
Right.
So the skincare management system, first of all, addresses that issue having to do with that thickened stratum corneum. And it's a resurfacing. It has a lot of resurfacing agents. It doesn't matter whether you have dry skin, oily skin, acne, rosacea. It's a starting point for everyone. And when we talk about resurfacing the skin, and I'll give you an example just with one product, BioClear.
My fave.
And I love BioClear is one of my favorite products. Okay, so number one, it has azelaic acid. It's azelaic, it's glycolic and salicylic. Azelaic acid is sold by prescription, sold by resurfacing agents we've ever seen for the fine lines and wrinkles and pore size. And it's a brightening agent. So it really resurfaces the skin. Then we have glycolic. Now, glycolic, at a very simplest level, what it does, it dissolves and dislodges the glue-like substance or cellular cement between cells, and it causes them to lift.
Right.
And when it does this on the surface, it makes your skin, gives it that beautiful resurfaced glassy look, and it also actually stimulates those substances in between your cells, glycosaminoglycans. It also just makes the skin look so much more luminous and smooth and plump. And then it does the same thing in the follicle. So the beginning of the acne process in the follicle is the ways the cells stick together. And it dissolves and dislodges the glue-like substance or cellular cement between cells, so it helps interrupt the acne process. And then you have salicylic. And we know, we've all heard of salicylic. It's good for acne. It gives the skin, makes skin look a little bit brighter and improves texture. But when you put those three acids together, in 40 years of research, well over 40 years, I have never seen anything that can resurface for home care the way that this product can. And so the system also has other things that address, for example, siesta DMAE, which causes muscle shortening at the neuromuscular junction, causes the skin to pull up. And there's a study that was presented at the American Academy of Dermatology. There's transformation, which has TGF beta 1 and thymosin beta 4, which is one of my patents and helps to correct instructions coming from DNA. And TGF beta 1, which stimulates the type of collagen you don't produce after the age of 30. And there's a whole group of technologies.
The synergy that all works together.
Exactly. Now,
because a lot of times people are, especially this time of year when they're feeling so dry, when they've got their masks on, they're just reaching for a moisturizer, but they haven't done the prep work and their skin can't even absorb the moisturizer. I love the fact when I take people out of the facial room and I sit them at the counter and I make sure they don't have any mask under their nose, but I'll always take a little bit of the BioClear and put it on the back of their hand and let them watch and then compare the two back of their hands. And they're going, oh, I said, yeah, it's like the magic eraser that we clean off the black marks on the door. You've got to prep that skin before you can put the great product of transformation cream on. If you haven't properly prepared it, and then the vitamin C, it all, like you said, it's synergistically and it works together.
And then the second part of that is, with a system, it is retinol.
Yes.
Now, and again, retinol is really misunderstood. And
yes.
So what I'm going to mention about retinol in conjunction with the system, this is all medical data. This is not anything that's disputed. So first of all, retinoids actually correct the instructions coming from your DNA. They also thicken the dermis up to twice as much. Twice as much.
And you said we lost our volume of our dermis, so that's important. Okay.
They thin and compact the stratum corneum. So the two things that we want to do for visible improvement. They also grow new little microvascularization, blood vessels near the surface. Now, we're not talking about telangiectasia, the bad ones associated with rosacea, but we're talking about what gives the skin that really vibrant, healthy look that just makes it, kind of gives it that glow. One of the things that happens when you age, when you look at older people and people that are more elderly, is it's not just that sometimes they have discoloration, pigment changes, but also their skin just looks pasty or doesn't have that same vibrant look.
Oh, true.
So it changes all of that. I mean, there's been studies done on twin girls, identical twins. So they both use the same skincare program. They both use the same sunscreen. 10 years later, and one of them uses a retinoid, and 10 years later, one looks 10 years younger than the other. So it is the gold standard. And the good news about when we work with, in JMSR, when we work with a retinoid, it can either be a plain retinoid, and when I say plain retinoid, there are peptides and there's anti-inflammatories and other things in there, Or it can be something like Duality for acne, which can achieve complete total clearing and is combined with retinoid. Or it can be Luminate Face, which is for discoloration, which also you get all of the issues that are going to address the discoloration, but at the same time, you get the benefit of the retinoid. So there's a number of different ways that you can get a retinoid, but it is absolutely critical. I don't think there's much of anything out there. There's other things that can have some extraordinary benefits, but in terms of what we are able to achieve today, there's not much that can hit the level of a retinoid.